I'm Sarah Peterson, and you're listening to an episode of MLM Marketing Explosion. There is no such thing as impossible. Would you like to know how to train your brain to get it to do what you want it to do?
I've spent the last year and a half learning from the top earners in the industry, and now I'm putting my business plan into action. The question is, how will I do it without being a tech genius or having supermodel good looks? Join me and follow along as I learn, put into action, and share my journey. I am Sarah Peterson, and you're listening to MLM Marketing Explosion.
Have you ever heard the phrase, thoughts become things? I remember the very first time I heard that phrase. I was at a conference with my brother, and I thought it was so hokey. The speaker on the stage kept saying, thoughts become things, thoughts become things, thoughts become things, over and over and over again. And by the end of his presentation, my brother and I were trying so hard not to laugh. We thought it was a load of baloney. We made fun of it for the rest of the day. You know, we'd walk around town, I want ice cream, bam. I want $1 million, bam. You know, I wish I was at Disneyland, bam. It was almost like that State Farm commercial where the people wish for something and then it automatically appears. Have you seen that commercial? And if you look at it that way, it is totally ridiculous. It is a total load of baloney. There is no magic in merely hoping and wishing that something happens. Life doesn't work that way. The magic in thoughts become things is that when you believe and think about something long enough and hard enough, you find a way to accomplish it. You make it come true by believing it and then working hard and putting the action behind it. There are no obstacles too big or mountains too high. When you believe in something strongly enough, you're going to stick with it until you find a way to accomplish what you set out to accomplish. Your brain is so powerful. It's simply a computer. That's all it is. It only does what you tell it to, and it believes anything you put into it. If you're faced with seemingly impossible odds and you want to automatically say no and you dismiss that idea that you had, as soon as you tell your brain, no, it can't happen, guess what? Your brain agrees, right? It only believes what you tell it. So then your brain sets out all the different ways to make it come possible so that at the end of the day it can go, see, you said it couldn't be done. I proved you right. You can't do it. I wanted to please you. Yes, nailed it. Mission accomplished. But the reverse of that is also true. Tell your brain that something can be done and your brain will work on it and work on it and work on it until it finally figures out that solution and a way to do it because it's programmed to do what you tell it to do, right? It wants to please you. So whether you say yes or whether you say no, you're right because your brain's going to do it that way. I remember reading somewhere that if you were tired, then you needed to tell your brain that you weren't tired. Now, you can't use negative words. So if I say I'm not tired or I've never felt better, I've never been more wide awake, it only hears the negatives. So it has to be completely positive, and it's probably going to take a little bit of practice and getting used to. But try this experiment next time that you're sleepy or feeling sluggish or maybe you didn't get the night's sleep that you thought you did. And I remember the very first time that I ever put that to the test, I actually was being totally sarcastic about it. I really honestly didn't think it was going to work, right? Like you can talk yourself out of being tired. I don't think so, right? But I set out, and from the moment I jumped out of bed, I told myself, I feel great. I'm ready to accomplish anything. I'm going to conquer the world. I'm wide awake. I almost said it wrong. I feel so alive. I feel great. If you keep reinforcing that throughout the day, and if you catch yourself like I did wanting to throw in a negative, stop yourself real fast and reinforce it with the positive. It has to be positive. But when you do that, remember, your brain wants to please you and it will come true. I couldn't believe it because, like I said, even being sarcastic, by the end of the day, I really did feel great. I really had accomplished a lot during that day because I told my brain that we were going to accomplish something. I told my brain how wonderful we felt. I told my brain how awake and alive we were that day. I've also put that to the test with names. Do you catch yourself meeting somebody and saying, I'm never going to remember your name? I'll try, but I'm just not going to remember it. Well, that's right. Your brain wants to please you, so what happens? You don't remember that name. And at the end of the day, when you run into that person again, or maybe a month later when you run into that person, you go, I don't remember that name. How do I not remember that name? Well, you don't remember that name because you told your brain you weren't going to remember that name, so you don't. Now remember, it wants to please you. If you go meet that new person and you ask for that person's name and you say, I am definitely going to remember that name. That is an awesome name. I am going to remember it. Guess what? Your brain remembers it, and the next time you see him, you go, I remember your name. I totally remember it. And your brain goes, yeah, because you said you were going to remember it. I remembered it because you told me to, right? Your brain wants to please you. It's such a cool, I was going to say trick. It's not even a trick. It's just how it is. It's your computer. Whatever you put into that computer is what you get out. Thoughts become things because you program your computer. You're in charge of how your life goes because you're the programmer, right? Have you ever heard of muscle memory? I hear it a lot, but I hear it in relations to sports, right? Muscle memory, when you practice enough, your muscles are going to know what to do and you're just going to be able to do it, right? Well, guess what? On the outside, even though it sounds like a muscle thing, it's not. That's only part of the story. It's actually a brain thing. So let's imagine for a second that you're a basketball player. You practice every single day. You know how to position your arms and the movement. The arms, you know how your arms feel as you raise them above your head, where your fingertips go, where the ball leaves your fingertips. And no comments about how I'm doing it wrong. I know I'm doing it wrong. I'm not a basketball player. However, you know what I'm talking about, right? You know how your knees are going to bend. You know what stance your body's taking. You know the form. You know where your hips are, where your head is, where your feet are positioned. You rehearse that game-winning shot in your head. You visualize the ball going into the hoop before you even take the shot, right? As you're beginning to learn the correct stance and the positioning, it may feel really awkward at first. It's going to feel unnatural. It's going to feel uncomfortable. But every single time you practice, it's going to feel a little bit better. And when you first begin practicing, you might have to think through every single step, right? Hands, check. Elbows, check. Head, check. Fingertips, check. Where's the ball placed? You know, are my knees bent the correct way, right? And it's going to feel awful, right, as you try to figure it out. But as you start doing it, your brain's going to automatically start to know what that stance feels like. And it's just going to automatically go, oh, this is what we're doing. We're shooting that shot. Now, to an outsider that doesn't know how many countless hours of preparation and practice that you put into it, you just look like a natural, right? That kid just has talent. He's just a natural. And when you start to get into that stance to make your shot, that brain kicks in and you go, hey, I know what we're doing here. We're going to shoot that ball and we're going to score. It's going in. The brain triggers the checklist to happen almost instantaneously. Your feet are in position, check. Knees bent, check. You're just a well-oiled machine and ready to perform at that high level. When you tell your brain no, it's your brain's way out, right? Ah, cool, we don't have to do that. She just told us we didn't need to. She doesn't care. Your brain's not going to spend any energy coming up with a solution because you didn't want one anyway. Why would your brain waste its time, right? However, when you tell your brain yes, your brain must come up with a solution. It's going to exhaust every possibility. It's that muscle memory. That's what the brain's designed to do. When I was in college, I changed my major probably a bazillion times. In fact, it was such a joke that by the time I graduated, my dad gave me a card that had all these graduates lined up across the stage getting their diplomas. And there was a booth set up right before you went up the stairs, you know, and there was a sign on it that said, it's not too late, change your major now. That's literally how much I changed my major, right? And my problem wasn't that I was lazy or that I wasn't a hard worker or that, you know, these different majors were too hard. The problem was that I kept figuring out a whole bunch of stuff that I didn't want to do. And I finally realized that what I really wanted to do was be a child life specialist and work in a children's hospital. Whew. I solved that problem, right? But guess what? My school didn't know what that was. So when I went to go tell them that I wanted to do this internship and that I wanted to go work at this hospital, they were like, I don't know how you do that. We've never had anybody that wanted to be a child life specialist before. But I was totally determined. I knew it was a real thing. I knew it's what I wanted to do. And thoughts become things, right? I told my brain, we are going to figure this out. So I found a professor in the college. I did not know this professor prior, but this professor agreed to sponsor me. And I found a hospital that said, hey, sure, we'd love an intern. Come on in. And I figured out the list of classes that I needed to graduate as a child life specialist. And I did it. And as a result, it actually became a real thing. It actually became a real program after I left the college. How cool is that, right? The magic behind thoughts become things is that your brain's ability to problem solve, if you truly want something, you're going to exhaust every single possibility until you make it a reality, until you get what you want. You're not going to say no. You're not going to pick up the first book, and if the answer's not in there, you're going to say, forget it, I don't need this anyway, right? No. If you're not figuring out how to do something, your thoughts become things, your brain, your computer is going to drive you to go find another option, to go look at something else, to go do something else. Your thoughts become things as that stick ability. If you don't truly believe in what you're doing, or if you tell your brain, well, we only sort of care, or no, it's not really a big deal, you're not going to be able to do that. It's just not going to happen for you. It's not even so much a mindset thing as it is a skill set thing. It's where the mindset and the skill set meet to make it happen. Because you can sit on your couch all day long and tell yourself, thoughts become things. I'm going to succeed. I'm going to be this top earner. I'm going to make $1 million. I'm going to do whatever. But you do not one thing to make that come true. Thoughts become things means absolutely nothing. It means nothing. It's taking that thoughts become things and putting that series of steps into motion to make sure that it happens. I learned this principle at a super young age without even probably meaning to. When I was five, I decided that I was going to have a pool party at my house, right? And it must have been during school. I don't know when it was. It doesn't really matter. But I made these little handwritten invitations at home, right? So I grabbed out the piece of paper and my crayons and I wrote, come on over to Sarah's house for a pool party. And if I remember right, it's upstairs in my picture book. If I remember right, I put the actual date on there, the time, right? And I handed it out to a couple friends that were going to have this pool party, right? Now, luckily, my parents or my mom came across this little handwritten invitation. I'd already sent it out, but she came across it because trouble was we didn't have a pool. So I'd already passed out these invitations. My parents hadn't known before I passed it out. They found it after the fact sitting on the table. And what was the outcome of that, right? I'd taken the initiative. I'd done all this. Can you guess what my dad did? Yeah, my dad thought it was so cute that I'd come up with this idea to have this pool party that he went out and he bought me a little plastic wading pool and I had a pool party, right? 5 years old. Thoughts become things. Now, if I'd gone in and told my dad or my mom, I want this pool party, they would have gone, Sarah, we don't have a pool. Where are we going to have a pool party? Really? What, in the kitchen sink? And nothing would have come of it. But because I decided that I was having this pool party, and because I set out and I made the invitations, and I went through the motions just like I would have if I really had a pool, it came true. Have you ever watched a little kid scale the kitchen cabinets in an attempt to get to the cookies that were placed out of reach on the cupboards? Thoughts become things. The brain wasn't going to take no for an answer. The brain knew that they probably shouldn't be going up there. The brain knew that it was way out of reach, but you told your brain, or this little kid told his brain, I'm getting those cookies. I don't know how, but we're getting those cookies. And so then the brain finds a way to make it happen, right? Instead of scolding or punishing that little kid, parents should actually probably encourage for the ingenuity and the stick-activity and the creativity and problem solving, right? Instead of punishing them. Now, they probably won't because that encourages them to do it again, but isn't that cool? They're encouraging them to think outside of the box, to train your brain to do something that it wants to accomplish, right? When you believe that something is possible, your mind starts to focus on things that in the past you might have dismissed or said was out of reach or just wasn't even a possible solution, right? Because you'd already decided that it wasn't a possible solution, right? When my daughter was a baby, she had really bad acid reflux and sleep apnea. And I mean, like, terribly, tremendously, awfully bad. In fact, I count my lucky stars every single day that my doctor believed that something was wrong and ran some tests because it was my first baby. And it would have been really easy for the doctor to go, all right, whatever, you're overreacting, right? But I'm looking at my baby going, oh my gosh, she's not breathing. But anyways, when she would sleep, she would sleep so deeply that she would just totally and completely forget to breathe. I mean, completely forget to breathe. Then as a result, she was on this special monitor and we had all sorts of expenses associated with that, right? And luckily, we had great insurance and they paid for it. Well, a few months later, we find out that I'm pregnant again and we're going to have another little darling baby, right? And I'm super excited. They're going to be really close together. I have, 4 kids in 5 years. But my husband and I were super excited. And then guess what happened? My husband unexpectedly lost his job. So here I've got this baby that has all these medical expenses for being on this special monitor for her sleep apnea. I'm pregnant. There's a baby on the way. My husband doesn't have a job anymore. And even worse than the loss of income was we don't have insurance now, right? What are we going to do, right? So we were able to get some temporary insurance, luckily. But if any of you guys have ever done that COBRA insurance, it only works for a short amount of time. It's crazy expensive. And then by then you're supposed to have this new job that's going to cover for your insurance, right? So I'm totally pregnant. I am so sick with morning sickness. I can barely get out of bed. I've got this baby, that I'm watching because she's still little. And now we've got all this pressure finding another job, and that had to fall solely on my husband's shoulders. There was no way I was going to be able to get a job. And he went to interview after interview after interview, and nothing worked out. I mean, nothing was working out. But remember, thoughts become things. We never, ever, ever, ever told ourselves or each other that, we were out of luck. What were we going to do? We never, ever panicked. And we were getting down to the wire. Like, the COBRA was running out. We didn't know what we were going to do, right? We were going to lose our insurance. And no matter how many job rejections my husband got, he just kept his chin up and he just kept looking, right? He never ever, he didn't get frustrated. He should have. He should have given up, but he didn't. And it literally came down to the final seconds. My husband got a job that was so much better than anything we had ever imagined. Thoughts become things. And the best news about this job was that most of the jobs that he'd applied for, we were going to have to wait a couple months for the insurance to kick in. We didn't have a couple of months to wait for the insurance to kick in. So with this job that he ended up getting offered and was able to take, they were able to figure it out so that the insurance and those benefits could kick in on the very first day that he started work. Crazy cool, right? Now you can argue, it was meant to be, it was supposed to happen. And you're right, it was. But thoughts become things. Because if he had not believed, or if he'd started to doubt, or he'd given up hope, those things that needed to come in place to happen for him to be able to get that job would never have happened. He would have stopped looking. He would have decided that that job with those benefits that started immediately and a little bit higher pay was out of his reach, right? All these other places rejected me. Why would this place take me, right? So that thoughts become things means that you believe beyond a shadow of a doubt, even if everybody else in the world is telling you that it can't be done, that it's impossible, that it's never going to work, that, you've got all these odds against you. You've never done this before. You don't know how to do this. Why would this happen for you, right? You can't do that. You have to, no matter what happens, you have to be able to shut it out. You have to, you think that I don't know what it feels like to fail in network marketing. Trust me, I do. You think I haven't had people tell me how lame it was or maybe that I shouldn't do it? Yeah, I have. But when that happens, you have to be laser focused and go, wow, well, that's fine. You can think that way, but it's not true. You're wrong. And, good things tend to happen right when you're at that breaking point, when it almost seems like all hope is lost, right? It's like that make it or break it. But the trick is that you have to have been actively looking for that solution, and that's when it's going to open up to you. And then you have to be ready to take action, because if you're not ready to take action, you're not openly looking for it, it doesn't happen. You're going to miss it. You're not even going to know, because usually those answers come in a way that you're never expecting, right? It's like when you're trying to figure things out and you're on this path and all of a sudden it's like, oh my gosh, the next step and the next step and the next step. I think one of the scariest things actually it was the scariest thing. So when I figured out how these top earners were getting paid to prospect, it was overwhelming. It really was. When I broke it down and I was able to figure out the exact steps that needed to be taken, it was a piece of cake. But when I looked at it from the outside, it was insurmountable. I didn't know how I was going to get from here to here. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't have any tech experience. In fact, my kids would laugh and go, Mom, what are you doing? You barely turn on a computer, right? And luckily, you don't have to know a lot of tech skills. But here's the deal. When I looked at that, I thought, okay, I don't know how to do all of this yet. I've never done this before. How could I possibly know how to do this, right? All I have to do is take that first step. And then somehow or other, once you get that first step down, all of a sudden you figure out how to do that second step. And then you kind of figure that out, and then you go on to that third step, and then that fourth step. But the problem is when you're looking down at the bottom up to where you want to go at the top of the hill, you don't know how to get there, right? You don't know everything that there is to know to get there. And luckily you don't have to, because I've learned that you just take one step at a time, and one step at a time, and one step at a time, and one step at a time. And all of a sudden, before you know it, you're at the top. And each time you take a step forward, you kind of look back and you go, oh my gosh, that's so easy. How do you not know how to do that? And then you go, oh my gosh, I didn't used to know how to do that. And it's so fun when you start to figure things out. There is truly no such thing as impossible. Impossible doesn't exist unless you tell yourself that it exists. And then you're right, it does exist, because your brain will believe what you tell it to believe. So if you'd like to know how to put this automation in place for your business and be able to use it in your downline, you're going to want to go to www.marketingexplosion.org. I'm going to lay out in a series of 5 days and 5 workshops exactly how to put this automation in place, step by step by step and day by day by day, so that you can have people begging you and applying to be in your downline so that you can get paid to prospect, just like the top earners and the gurus in the network marketing industry are doing. They're getting paid to prospect. Would that change your business if all of a sudden, if somebody said no or said yes to you, it didn't even matter? Are you tired of bugging your family and friends and bumping into the same people all over social media trying to pitch your opportunity? If so, grab your team members and go to www.marketingexplosion.org and pick up your free copy of MLM Momentum. It's going to teach you how to get people coming to you and applying for your opportunity. It's also going to teach you how to get paid for prospecting. See you soon.